True.
All right. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So let's kick this off. Let's do it right. Give JD a minute to swallow. That doesn't sound right.
Oh.
You can make all those jokes you want. I don't give
Edit that.
Seriously?
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people.
Right.
You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter
too.
pounder with cheese and France, Mickey? What? Boy, ale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And John.
And JD.
And this week, boys and girls, we have a very special returning guest. He's here to talk all about one of our favorite projects, Terminal. And of course, it's the one and only Steve Ekstrom. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me again.
No problem. So, Troy was just on not too long ago, and he talked a little bit about where you guys were, but why don't you give an update to our listeners? You guys have a Kickstarter launch. I'm sure everyone wants to know all about it.
Yep, we are going to be launching tomorrow. We were going to launch today, but we had a minor setback of technical difficulty that we had to take care of. And so tomorrow we go live at noon, and we're going to be launching an $8,000 project to promote the next two books in the series. So we funded number 1 and number 2 last year, and now we're doing number 3 and number 4. And people who want to support us that didn't jump on initially can get all 4 issues on this Kickstarter.
Cool. And so for those who don't know, it's an anthology book. You have different writers and artists on what?
No, good. Continue.
You have different writers and artists on the book. So who are some of the writers you have?
Oh, okay. Well, we've got Justin Gray from DC Comics, Hawkman, Jonah Hex.
Mm-hmm.
He's working with a guy named Dan Lauer, who we discovered on Instagram. He's kind of been, making stuff quietly for several years. The backup story for number 3 is going to be Eric Palicki from Black Mask, No Angel. And number 4 is going to have Vito Del Santi who's got a webcomic, Purple Heart. And he's working with a really good friend of mine, Portuguese artist Antonio Brando. And the backup story for number 4 is my old boss from Newsarama, Matt Brady, who's had stuff published at DC and Dynamite. And he's working with a young guy out of Croatia. His name is Nikola Sizmezia. I hope I didn't butcher that too poorly. So if Nikola hears that, I'm sorry. But I'm working with some super and just talented people this time, and I'm super excited because the first endeavor was, several of us were kind of, smaller indie guys like me and Mark. Mark Bertolini's blowing up now. Like he's getting published at Darby Pop, and I think Aftershock may be looking at something it is. I'm not sure. C.W. Cook has been, published by Devil's Due, and then you have Marco Lopez and Gene Selassie, who Marco's part of the new line of comics that's going to be Rey Mysterio and all those guys started their brand of comics. Marco's one of the frontmen for that, and he also, did the Puerto Rico Strong graphic novel. So there's a lot of people that are in this group with our little crew from Imminent that are just branching out like super fast, and things are just accelerating for all of us.
I mean, that's really good to hear. You guys took a gamble, and sounds like
Yeah, no, and you just have to take calculated risks. I'm very fortunate to work with so many talented people, and this is the first time I've ever edited something this large, and so to have this many moving pieces and to have so many nice people, contribute free work. We've got 4 more guest artists for the variants this time. We have Eisner Award winner Vasilis Lolis. We have Richard Pace, who's got a book coming out of Vertigo. We have we have Jeff Johnson, who's obviously Wonder Man, Way of the Rat, and we also have Josh Adams, son of Neil Adams, who's done some work on like Doctor Who and stuff like that.
Cool.
So are you getting people like lining up for this to sign up with you, or do you have to go out and find them?
Well, it's mainly like good, like a lot of these people are people I network with and are friends with on Facebook. So I'm just kind of like, hey, would you like to do this? And most of them jump at it. There's one person that I am actually going to seek out that I don't want to name right now because I don't want to get people's hopes up, and I don't want to get my own hopes up. But let's just say he wrote the best blurb for number 1. And it was a shocker that he was willing to be so kind to write something, a pull quote for us. And I'm hoping to see if he would be willing to help us with a piece for the last issue, which we'll be hopefully funding in the second quarter of 2019. Number 5 is going to be double-sized. We're just going to do one more book after these 2. And it's going to be like an 80-page giant, and it's going to have 4 stories in it, plus some back matter and probably some pinups, and potentially some more story from me and Bob from the first issue. I don't know yet. Bob's schedule is so hectic right now with school, and he's a husband that takes care of his household while his wife works, and he's got 2 kids. So it's hard when you're balancing so many moving pieces to have, you want to be able to do the best work you can. So it's stressful for a lot of us because, we want to give people top-notch stuff while we're developing things. Right. So he's kind of on hiatus right now. So I'm hoping that we won't have to pivot away, which is something that happens very often with projects like this. If people get busy, we have to make adjustments. And I'm hoping we don't have to make a major adjustment to have Bob not be the cover artist and not be the colorist for the guest art variants.
So have you been the sole editor on all of you? Are you guys working? Because I'm curious because is it difficult when you're doing a multi-story book like this? Is there a fear that it'll be too much of your voice and you might be taking something away from the writer?
One of the things that I've been very fortunate with as I've matriculated and as I've grown as a creative person is that I've tried to remain voiceless in a certain quality when I edit and stuff. I try to stay away from infusing myself too much. Like there are times where I might punch up somebody's dialogues just so that it doesn't sound cliche or just derivative or wooden with slang. But I try not to use repetitive slang that I would use. I try to find things like dialogue cues in the work itself, and I try to mimic that so that it, just perpetuates the style of whose story it is.
Right.
I am the sole editor. I do all the lettering for all the books too because it's easier for me to edit. As I'm lettering the script, I can take things that might not fit on a page and distill it or spread it out or change it in such a way that it's the same thing, but we say it in a different way so that it can, flow better, translate better from your eyes to the pictures. It's
right.
It's kind of a complicated process, but most guys write a story without, seeing the visuals. And then when you have the visuals in front of you, if you wrote a little too much, you might cover up something. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of have to, it's like a juggling act a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I can see that. Unfortunately, I've never got to edit a comic, but one day.
Actually, probably fortunate, Dave.
No, that's true.
So it's it's herding cats, and then it's like riding a unicycle and juggling flaming, chainsaws. It's not. I actually really enjoy this process more than I thought I ever would. I was doing this because I wanted to make comics, and I was willing to do whatever work I needed to do to get published. But learning how to edit from my friends has made this a lot more of an easy transition. Like I would love to continue editing bigger properties and stuff like that. I think it would be a fun job to have, to work at a bigger company and do that. But at the same time, I want to be down in the sandbox playing with toys. You know, I want to work on licensed properties. I want to work at places like Marvel and DC. I want to do all the stuffs.
Right. Herding cats while riding on a unicycle, juggling. That sounds like running this podcast.
Yeah.
You guys are animals.
Yes, sometimes.
Disgusting animals.
So these are anthology books, right? All different types of stories and so forth. What do you like give a direction, or is it just are you like weeding out certain stories that don't kind of fit, or is it just all comers?
Basically, we when we started out, this started out between me and Troy. Troy and I were like, hey, we need to do a project that gets more attention because our webcomics aren't cutting it. We can't collect the webcomics because we don't have enough material. Let's do a project together. What's the best kind of project to do? And I said anthologies. And I kind of, because I've been watching them for a few years, because there was a period of time around, 2007, 2008, where Negative Burn was still around, and that was kind of the standard bearer for anthologies in the industry. And then all of a sudden it was gone. And after that, Image started publishing Pop Gun, and they had a Western anthology, Outlaw Territories, I believe, which was fantastic, as well as 24/7, which was Ivan Brandon, and I'm probably butchering his name because he's got a special way to say it. I remember him Facebooking about it. But anyway, these guys all produced these really high-quality anthology books for Image, and I was fascinated by them because I love just the mixture of stories. So I said we should just let's focus on something people aren't doing, which is staying away from superheroes. The biggest mistake that people make trying to get into the industry is that they try to compete with publishers that are creating 50, 60 superhero books a month. You're going to get lost in an ocean of stuff like that. You should try to find things that people aren't writing about. So I said, why don't we make like a postmodern take on a pulp anthology? Because pulp is the precursor to superhero comics. Superheroes are basically an umbrella over the top of the pulp, subgenres. So we've got stories that are sci-fi. We've got stories that are hard-boiled. We have stories that are crime noir. We have stories that are my stories are romance mixed up with a hard-boiled crime book. Huh. It's there are a couple of superhero projects, but they have a little bit of noir in them. They have a little bit of the sci-fi weird. There's one one of the stories that's in number 3 is basically like Doctor Strange meets the Big Lebowski via like sexy Jeff Goldblum, and it's Fausto Cologne.
Okay, that brings an image, and I don't know if I want that image, but
well,
I read about it.
The comic opens up with him naked in bed with 2 women, and the cops kind of walk into his apartment. And he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And they're like, "We need, you need to come with us." And he's like, "I can't right now. I'm busy." And his girlfriend comes in, and she's like, "What are you doing with these women?" He's like, "I'm trying to help these 2 lesbian werewolves conceive a child." And
that's ridiculously awesome.
Say what? Right. And it is. The whole story is ridiculously awesome, and it just kind of spins out of control from there. In number 4, Vito's story is kind of a tech noir, and it's set in a backdrop that reminds you of the old school detective, stories where you've got this guy sitting in his office and a hot woman comes in and wants to hire him to do some job. But then there's this weird sci-fi edge to this story that I don't want to give away that's really good. And in fact, it's so good that we're probably, our next project with Imminent is going to be single issues from each one of our creative teams set in this world that Vito has created, because we just really like it. Cool. And I think he's going to be the editor, so I can step away from that and work on other stuff, and I'm excited about that as well.
So with all of this going on, do you have any other project, or is it all Imminent and all term?
No, it's not all Imminent and all Terminal. What is continuing with Imminent is we're building a website, and we've bought a domain name, and it's going to be imminent.online, and it's going to be a hub for all of our projects at Imminent, obviously, and it's going to kind of be a centralized point for us to be able to self-publish webcomics that we're going to give away for free, because we're going to try and invent our own digital distribution model, where we give away chapters of a book for free for a certain amount of time, and then we pull it down, we collect it and put it on Comixology, and then we start chapter 2. So you get to see the stuff for free, but if you want to support us and have these things for yourself and for sharing and whatever, you can go to Comixology and then pay $1 or $2 to have the old chapter that we pulled down. And we're basically going to do that with Hunter Black. We're doing it with Massively Effective from Marco Lopez. So Hunter Black's Justin Peniston and William Orr. And that's going to be, from my tentative plan is for them to be Friday, to be the heavy hitter that's Friday, because they have so much content that we're basically re-syndicating. Monday will be Massively Effective, and it's Marco Lopez's got a full-length graphic novel that we're just going to slowly publish in 4 to 6 page chunks every week on Mondays. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we've gotten to know this guy. His name's Tawhid Bondia, and he's got a comic, a strip that's called The Problem with Jamal, and it's socially sharp Dennis the Menace meets the Boondocks. And it's really good, and he's a really talented artist, and we're going to have him on Tuesdays and Thursdays just providing strips that he's syndicating. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have Spark Shooter from Troy and Inkaru Otherworld. So we're going to basically restart these strips on a centralized hub so people can cross-pollinate their audiences together. Cool. And then I'm working on a comic that's called Walking the Talk with Rob G. from The Couriers, Teenagers from Mars, Repo. He and I went to high school together, and I have been trying to drag him, kicking and screaming, back into drawing comics like the last decade, because he left. He was just unhappy, and he decided he wanted to do something different. So he, lives in Portland, and he cooks in a restaurant, and I want him to draw a comic. And it's basically a comic about me convincing him to draw a comic.
That's one way to work out your problems.
It's like it's kind of like My Dinner with Andre, between two guys, a writer and an artist walking around fictional Portland, Oregon, talking about the nature of making things in the medium. And he's going to air some dirty laundry that he's got, some feelings that he's got about the way the industry treated him. And that's going to be kind of some of the high drama of it. But every month or so, we're going to kind of come up with 8 to 12 pages of just us walking around talking about comics. And it's going to be a meta comic, an exploration of making comics.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm really excited to make it. He's such a talented guy, and I hate knowing that this guy is like languishing. I want him to just flourish. And he's been my friend since I was in the 10th grade. So it's like, he was telling me I was crazy for wanting to make comic books then. We, stopped knowing each other for several years. We found each other on like friggin' MySpace, and then it translated over to Facebook, and we've stayed in touch for like the last 12 years. And he's a close friend of mine now. I care about him. I care about his wife and his daughter, and I care about his situation. And I just, I want to see this guy be an artist again.
Right. Cool. That sounds like a really fun idea. That one I can't wait.
I'm excited to make it. Like, we're going to actually make the dialogue is going to be based on conversations we record on the phone.
Right.
So it's going to be like us really talking.
Hopefully it doesn't get into too much trouble.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. I hope we get into trouble.
Is there going to be like a special edition unrated version?
I don't know. We have talked about possibly having, like, if we were, like, he doesn't want to ever collect anything. He doesn't want to make money on anything. He wants to give everything away for free. And I said, if we develop a fan base and we make enough material that we can collect it in a bookshelf format, I'm doing it, whether you like it or not. And I think it would be awesome if we had material that was strictly for our fans of the book. And so if there was an unedited or like, cut scenes type thing where we got more personal, I would totally do.
Awesome. So before we forget to say it, what is the best way for people to find the Kickstarter?
Well, I am actually, right after we get off of this, I'm going to be linking our old Kickstarter link to the new Kickstarter, and it's going to be basically imminent.press. You can type in imminent.press, and it will pull up the Kickstarter, or imminent-presents.com. Both of those links will take you to the new Kickstarter page tomorrow afternoon. I basically found a way to cheat Facebook's metric. Facebook varies. People that listen to your podcast should write this down. Facebook buries Kickstarter link in their metric. So that means that you don't get as much exposure without paying for Facebook ads, because they want you making money. They want to make money off of you. They don't want other websites to take you off of Facebook. They want you to stay on Facebook. So I basically started buying URLs and attaching them to things like this to get around them saying, oh, Kickstarter's in the title, we can bury it. And my, 80% of our sales was based on Facebook stuff last year. So, and Twitter is a great place to market. It's a terrible place to crowdsource.
Huh.
Like, I am so appreciative of all the tweeting you guys do for me, because I cannot do all the Facebooking I do, all the Instagramming I do, and all the Twittering that you guys do. I'm always so glad when I watch you guys for like a month tweet my name, and I'm just like, holy shit, let me retweet for them too. These guys are so awesome at this, because I wish that I had like 8 arms and each one had a tentacle on it, so I could do like 48 things at once.
Well, when you pay us, I mean, that's. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to.
You weren't supposed to say that part.
Fine, I'll send nudes.
There again. Oh. Well played, sir. Well played.
Of those female werewolves?
I'll see what I can do. Dan might be up for that. I don't know. Let me see what it'll draw.
I didn't know our target audience was furries now.
Oh.
No judgment.
Whatever bumps the numbers up, I'm all for.
So,
and to issue a favorite quote, that escalated quickly.
So actually, that kind of it's a good little segue. We've been doing something new on the show, and I wanted to just do a little bit of it tonight because we had a fun episode last week, and it's JD's favorite segment, and that's our social media madness, where we talk about tweets that we got in reply of our shows.
Nice.
And
I think they're getting worse on purpose.
Yeah.
And of course,
indubitably.
Those who listened last week know that we talked about the BatWang controversy.
Yeah.
Extensively.
Dude, I was at MegaCon Tampa, I was at MegaCon Tampa, and they had no book vendors that were selling books that came out within the last 2 weeks. It was all old comic dealers. And I was like, I can't, like, Batman's dick was already $50, so I couldn't buy it. And so I was like walking around like asking, does anybody have Batman's dick? I'm willing to spend $40 on it. And nobody would help me. And I got a lot of odd looks. And
I bet.
It sucks.
Oh,
I'm a collector. I can't help it.
That's just not right. I really don't have an answer for that. Darn it, I lost.
You might have to edit that. I don't know.
No, we don't edit stuff like.
Especially BatWang.
Yeah.
The BatWang, it was hilarious. When that started circulating, I was in tears the first time I read it.
So Rob Foster had replied to our, just in the topic in general, I won't say Green Lantern, this is a quote now, repeating, I won't say Green Lantern is weird, but there's a reason Robin wears a butt-length yellow cape. Okay? This is a Batman quote. And he said, he did say, sorry, an old line of mine, but I couldn't resist. Carry on.
Yeah.
Moving on.
And of course, there were some jokes that went back and forth about someone wanting to do an all superhero penis-related episode.
It was me, and it got people talking.
I had to do a poll of our audience to see.
Oh God!
Oh, I almost spit take all over my laptop.
This is going way
going south.
Should we do an entire episode on superhero penises?
And
it was just a yeah, baby, or no way. 40% of the audience said, yeah, baby, and 60% said no way.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have ideas for Machine Man. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Oh,
and then, so one of our fellow podcasts from the Nerd Podcast Mafia, during a podcast said, that's a no-brainer, which of course JD had to reply to, don't you mean a no-wanger?
It's low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another euphemism for
Still trying. Stiltman just popped into my head. See what you've done? I've got so many ideas here.
So that was really it. It was short this week. I mean, there's a couple other things, but that was, I wanted to continue our fun from last week, talking about BatWang.
I feel enriched, like my life is.
So I'm kind of curious, what your take is on that particular topic.
Okay. I get naturalism. Okay. I get the need for naturalism in adult style books because it adds kind of a racy element. I mean, I've seen the picture, obviously. I thought it was tastefully done in a way. Did I think it was necessary? No. Implied nudity would have been just as effective. When I sent it, I sent it to somebody that I'm kind of dating right now, and she was like, "Oh, hey," and I was like, "There you go, you're welcome." And but it was she, and I was like, and now she wants to read comics. She won't touch any of mine, but now she wants to read Batman. And it's fine. But it's at the same time, nobody else talked about the rest of the comic, and that sucks.
Right. That's true.
Okay, everybody was focused on Batman's dick in one panel.
Well, they did it to themselves, though. I mean, that's what they were going for, and that's what they got.
Absolutely. But these kind of lines of books are necessary for older readers. Like, I have outgrown as a human most of Marvel and DC's regular line.
Right.
I would love to have a Vertigo level quality of book with superheroes in it. Superheroes that I want to connect. Like, I can go buy Image books. I can go buy things that have analogs in them. I could write my own analog superhero book if I wanted to. But do I want to read something that's got a little harder edge? Sure. I'm willing. A Batman book that's adult level would be just as effective as a Punisher Max book from 15 years ago, which those were fantastic, if anybody recalls. Steve Dillon and Garth Ennis just killed it on this book. So you have to kind of consider what we're looking at. I haven't seen the new Watch. There's a new Watchmen book on the new label too. If I'm correct, right?
I don't know if it's out yet, but yeah, I believe there is a Watchmen.
Right. So I'm excited to read that. As much as I want to be a purist with Alan Moore's work, I'm still interested to see what DC has up their sleeves in terms of telling contemporary comics with an adult slant to them.
Right.
I go see R-rated movies because I'm an adult, so give me some R-rated comics that are tactfully done, intelligently done, and I'm in. You've got my money. I'll spend $7 on a high-end book that's of the quality. The art in that book is breathtaking. I'm sure that the story is good. Have I got to read it yet? No, because I couldn't get Batman's dick for $40 at a comic shop. But I want to. I'm willing to give it a shot because I care about elevating the medium.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay, we're all thinking about his dick now. It's fine.
I can't.
John, are you going to make it? Are you okay?
I'm working at it. I can pull through. I'm in, Coach. I can do this. So.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah. So what's up? What's up next?
Time to bring in the lefty.
Yeah,
He's done.
Nice.
Yeah, I know.
Going to see Venom?
Probably not. That movie doesn't look good. The first trailer, when it first came out, I had hope for it. The more I see of it, the less I like it. I'm just kind of like, oh, Jesus. Could this get any worse? And it's just, I'm really tired of trying to watch Hollywood make their own knockoff or make their own, they're just not willing to move because they want to give their directors the ability to take artistic license. And they're making huge mistakes because the people that they need to make happy are the baseline nerds that go see these things, because we're the people that go, yes, this is awesome, to all of our friends who go, hey, you're a nerd. What is this? Is this movie going to be worth my time? If we're all sitting there complaining about the fact that there's no white spider on the front of Venom, then it's not authentic. And then our friend who could give or take, a shit about these movies is going to go, oh, well, if this nerd doesn't want to see it, I don't want to see it. And that matters. And that's why, I'm kind of hating half of the universe right now, because all the guys that got upset about Han Solo and Episode 8 have basically taken away opportunities for us to see new Star Wars movies.
Right.
Because they're over-invested in their own nostalgia. They're over-invested in their own fan entitlement, and they're just not willing to be entertained anymore.
I get the entertainment part, and I agree, but for some of these properties, like, okay, so for Venom, you can take, you can take, you can give or take the white spider on the front of them. It doesn't matter. You can take liberties with some of the storyline, because obviously they're, so far as we know, they don't have Spider-Man in there. So why did Venom take the form of Spider or whatever? Or is that just the reason why they didn't get the white spider? But there's still the difference between Marvel and DC, where Marvel says, hey, get a comic book writer, write this movie, or get people that really care about this and write these movies and take your time and, put a plan in. And DC, like, Marvel has making all of the money. Let's throw something against the wall and hope it sticks.
Structurally, it's because Warner Brothers is a much slower moving ship, and Marvel had enough infrastructure in place before Disney took over. So when you look at Warner Brothers and the way that they kind of control their properties and curate their properties, curate is a much better word than control. You have people that have their fingers in these pots that shouldn't have them in there in the first place. They should trust the people that they put in charge of these things. I'm excited that people like Jeff Johns are in charge of things, because the guy is a purist. He cares. You're going to get tonal accuracy. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want to watch another Zack Snyder. It was just tonally inaccurate, and that's it. Everybody looked good. Ben Affleck looked good. Henry Cavill looks good, but if it's too dark, it's not their fault. It's the vision of the director. But that's also because they're busy trying to mimic what's successful about their comics. Marvel has this really nice self-reflexive layer of humor in these things now, where they're not taking themselves too seriously, and they shouldn't. And then when you try to interject that into something that's been heavily cut, like the Justice League movie, it's like you're watching this terminally dark, morose movie with one-liners in it. And it was like zing, zing, and you're just like, holy shit, what am I watching? This is a train wreck.
Laugh now, laugh now. Pay no attention to the mustache. Pay no attention.
Right. Okay, look, they could have backed a money truck up and just done away with that. They could have paid to shave that off of him and did what they could have done instead of spending millions of dollars with bad CGI. Because somebody had to have looked at that during the editing phase and been like, holy crap, that looks awful. That doesn't look like a human mouth, And I like watching that. You just kind of snicker and you just say, "Wow, man, these are major companies that have millions and millions and millions of dollars, and that's the best they could do." And so you kind of just shake your head and you just go, "Okay, try to entertain me." I mean, I set the bar on the ground. There were things I liked about those movies. Jason Momoa as Aquaman is the smartest thing that they have done, because DC doesn't have a Wolverine. Okay, they have Batman, right. But Batman's more like a Marvel character than any of their other people in their lineup. So they have a Marvel-type character, vigilante character, but they didn't have a Wolverine until Jason Momoa came out. They needed a bad boy. Batman isn't a bad boy. He's a control freak.
They planned that.
No, it was a beautiful piece of casting. That they went with the Aquaman, the Arthur Curry, that was like the Peter David level guy from the late 90s, early aughts. That was the guy that they needed to bring into play, not orange chainmail, green pants, yet blonde hair Aquaman that nobody gives a shit about, and he talks to fish and everybody jokes about it. that sucks.
Right.
But there were moments, like, I still don't really care for Ezra Miller because we have a good Flash on TV. And that's the other problem with Warner, is that their television arm is so solid that it makes their movies look bad. And they're not willing to cross-pollinate. Because
I know, I completely agree. Yeah.
Grant Gustin should be in movies as the Flash. It wouldn't hurt them one bit, and you would already have a built-in audience that is regular.
Right.
Stephen Amell, fantastic guy. Arrow is a great show until it started kind of getting shark jumpy in the last year or two. Mm-hmm. But it was solid, you know. They've got solid stuff that you just allow to exist on television, and it works. Black Lightning is good.
Yeah.
Like super good, pun intended. You know, like that's the best one of their shows, man, and it's extremely relevant.
It's the most authentic too.
Right. Yes. That's the word we have to keep coming back to. Tonal accuracy, authenticity. These things matter to fans. And when the fans like it, they talk about it. And when people hear the fans talking about it, they go, well, these nerds know what they're talking about. And, you know, it just kind of snowballs. Marvel had a plan. And Marvel, you're right, did the right thing by working with committees of comic book people who understand the continuity. But they also said, you know, we're going to streamline this stuff to, you know, basically eliminate years and years and years of backstory that we can't front load. And so they created, you know, character archetypes that matched what we were supposed to have. And they distilled away all the layers of stuff that you get in a comic book that only comic book readers appreciate. And that's another reason why readership's dying, is that it's too intimidating to walk into a store and start at number 760. At the same time, it's too mismanaged to reboot a number 1 every 18 months. So you have to find a middle ground, so where you're keeping your bread and butter people from leaving, and then you can also bring people in. So now, you know, you're seeing all these books that have 2 numbers on them, which I think is okay, because DC did it in the 80s too. They had little tracking numbers for storylines that you would have, like number 34. And you'd be like, wait a minute, this is book number 34 in a story, and it's 4 issues of Superman across a month. And you could read everything because it was placed in order for you. That's smart. But because of the way things are packaged now, we sell things in trades, you can't do that. So we're too busy collecting 5-issue trades because that's where they really make their money now. And that's where we've been heading in that direction in comics for years. Nobody talks about it.
Well, I think it was, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure Jeff had said in it a few years ago, he kind of sees of getting rid of sequential books altogether and just coming out with essentially prestige format books.
Right, quarterlies.
Quarterlies or whatever, right. Just right. Here's a good standalone Batman story like The Long Halloween, and like that's it. There's no continuity, no nothing. It's just, here's a good Batman and Spider-Man. And like that way people can just go, oh, did you read this Spider-Man book? Not, do you have number 300 through 320?
I, like, to a degree, part of me likes that. But you're also talking to somebody who's been watching serialized television since he was a small child. Right. I've been reading. I have a run of Amazing Spider-Man from the month of my birth, November 1976, to the last issue where Dr. Spider-Puss took over, which I stopped reading. No, I don't, because I don't care about Dr. Spider-Puss.
Oh, it's actually pretty good, though.
Everybody liked it, but me. This is not me, man. I don't care about that. It was just do something different. I just wasn't happy as a customer. And that's the only way that people have to stop getting on internet and yelling at creatives anonymously. Like, that's the biggest thing that I have a problem with these days, is all that stuff that's going on with Alterna trying to control people's social media. You can't block people. If you're going to come anonymously yell at me about something I did that you already paid, not my problem. It's out of my hands. I got paid to do a job. I wrote a comic book. I was directed, another thing these people don't understand is that they're editorially mandated to create things that are shaped. So they've already had a plan to do what they're going to do. They're just having a vessel tell the story. And so you have these people show up that are, these butthurt man boys that want to cry about whatever happened. Like I was obviously didn't like Dr. Spider-Puss, so I stopped reading. I just stopped paying for it. Other people bought it. They still win. But when you get people that crawl on the internet and they want to yell at you and tell you you're a terrible person because you somehow upset their sensibilities about their fan entitlement, I don't have to respect those people.
Amen.
It's I mean, if we could live through the Clone Saga,
okay. I didn't like that, but I bought it.
Right.
And I get it. I get why people didn't like it, and I look back on it in the mid-'90s. I go, man, this is not good. This is just not fun. You know, it's really hacked up. But that was a period of time in mainstream comics where there wasn't a lot of really unique shit happening. Mm-hmm. I mean, Red and Blue Superman came back around the same time. Am I wrong?
2 years later.
Yeah, and so I mean, they were rehashing Silver Age ideas then, and they did that up into the 2000s, if you think about it. And that's fine. That was a wave of guys that loved comics so much that they basically retold stories that they liked in the early 70s, late mid 70s, you know, whatever. But I think that the fact that we have so many, the fans are the vocal minority of the fans that are getting upset and trying to create like the Comicsgate stuff, which I don't know how much you guys would want to talk about that, but I could go on at length considering all the news that's happening right now with Mark Waid being sued by Richard Meyer and stuff like that.
Oh, I just read about that, yeah.
You know, and it's hot garbage. That guy doesn't have a career because he's been networking himself out of comics for a decade.
Very effectively.
Right, and I mean, I've butted heads with this guy, and then when I've called him out on it, he acts like he doesn't remember. And this happened years ago during, I think, the Obama-Romney election cycle. I got into it with EBS. I got into it with Meyer. They show up en masse together because they're all buddies. And it's just this troll party.
Here's my issue with the whole thing. Like, if he wants to create comics, he's got every right to do it. He can jump on Kickstarter and promote it any way he wants. But to try to sit there and say another creator is at fault for him losing a contract, it's like, no, that's really
that's not
stupid.
what happened. He wants to make it into something that it's not.
Right, exactly.
Basically what Mark Waid did, from what we can gather from reading all these things, he called them. He called Antarctic, and he said, I don't know if you're aware of what this guy is like on social media. Those people can terminate a contract. If we don't even know we're speculating. I'm speculating right now. We don't know the full extent of what's being said. You know, so all we can do is kind of say, well, this is what we've all gathered. But from my experience with contracts with publishers, there's always verbiage where they can quit.
They can do it at will. Right.
Terminate at will. And a lot of these fans that are backing these guys up now are like, oh, we can't wait till they sue Mark Waid into the ground. How the hell are you supposed to sue a guy into the ground if he just made a phone call and said, hey, you might want to take a look at these guys because it's not a good idea?
And with all the articles I read, Mark Waid wasn't the only one who called.
Yep.
There were a lot of people speaking out about this. And Richard Meyer can't go on Kickstarter. There was a thing published today. There's a piece circulating, a graphic, where it showed Kickstarter's response to him. And the only reason I know about this is because I just had to contest my terminal thing today because of I made a mistake and clicked a button I shouldn't have. And I ended up deleting some stuff, and my Kickstarter was rejected. So I had to contest it by saying, oh, I pushed this button at the wrong time. I didn't have stuff uploaded properly. It's all corrected now. Whenever you guys are ready, we can keep rolling. He was rejected, and then when he tried to argue with them, because they said we don't support people who are bigots, we don't support hate groups, hate speech, he was like, I don't do that. I have all this, this, and this. And they were like, no, you've got a proven track record because he attacked women on social media. He's attacked people of color on social media. And he's attacked the LGBTQIA plus community on social media. It's out there. Everybody's got the receipt. He's done this to himself.
Yeah, you can delete as many Twitter posts as you want, but you know they're always saved. And
I screen cap everything that looks like it needs to be saved.
Well, here's the crazy part too: is the guy ran a super successful Indiegogo campaign. He proved that he could do it without being part of the machine. Yet he continues to double down because he's so entitled that he's not part of this machine that he feels the need to destroy every chance he gets. Like, it's the worst case of foot and mouth I've ever seen. It's like, I want in so bad. You all suck because you won't.
I'll show you.
Yeah, that's right. It's like supervillain stuff.
Right, but the thing is, and I'm going to say this because it's just an idea, Indiegogo can be gamed in a way that Kickstarter cannot.
True.
Okay? I don't think he made $350,000, $500,000. There's no way. I think that they figured out that they could game those numbers to look super successful because in his weird, warped mind, this guy thinks that Marvel and DC are going to change their mind about the fact that he's an utter douchebag to people and go, well, he's a moneymaker, so we got to hire him.
I think that's exactly accurate. I think that, like I said, this guy has proven, realistically he has a market that he can sell to. Whether, I think it's an important market, but I mean, like, you've proven that you could do your own thing and you don't need everything. But it's this constant need to be the victim that just keeps derailing this. And it just, like, I'd almost feel bad for him if he wasn't such an asshat, but...
Right. Well... okay, I'm gonna.
That's actually before you. That's an excellent point, Steve. Like, if he raised $350,000 to $500,000 on Indiegogo, why does he need any company to back him?
He ought to have. I know how much it costs to make these comics. He could produce hundreds of comics now.
Right.
Okay. That's why I don't believe any of it. He's sending everything media mail. So that means that he's paying $2 to mail something that usually would cost $6 or $7 to mail it normal in an envelope. Because I'm looking at my postage scale right now while I'm talking to you. Because I'm having to do this while I'm preparing another Kickstarter because there's a window of just non-success between November and January. You will not hit higher marks on those months. So I have to get my Kickstarter out in October. And I'm still fulfilling orders from my first one because we were slowed down by obstacles. I'm not going to badmouth the printer. I'm not going to badmouth myself or my compatriots, but there were obstacles. But with Meyer and these guys, I don't think that they made that much money. Not off of the hate, not off the fact that you can't sell a 52-page book for $25. That better be high quality shit right there. That better be like smoking the best high-grade weed because you've got to be smoking high-grade weed to spend that much money on a comic book. And his audience is not going to be able to sustain itself with every book costing $30.
You're right, but I wondered if it was that he had such a cult of personality built up around this initial campaign that his followers really felt like they were part of a movement.
Maybe.
And that's what. And you're right, because no person in their right mind would pay that kind of money for a book.
Well, look at what's happening with MAGA hats. Look at what's happening with all kinds of stuff like that. I have two parents that are conservative. They buy stuff all the time like that. They buy it because they think they're helping their movement, and you're right. But I don't think his audience is as big as we think it is.
I agree. Yeah,
there's no way he has that many YouTube viewers. Period. And because 90% of these dudes have 88,000 fake Twitter accounts that they all operate. Because you can have infinite number of Twitter accounts connected to your phone. I have 5 connected to mine. Terminal, Mine, Imminent, Freak Sugar, everything that I work from is connected to one account on my phone, and I can switch back and forth with ease. There's no way there are thousands and thousands of these mindless monkeys that all joined Twitter in August of 2018 with 0 followers. There's no way. It's being gamed. It's gamesmanship. These guys have figured out how to game anonymity. They figured out how to game Indiegogo's fact that the collection method is not limited to only collecting. It doesn't matter. You get to keep what you actually get to collect. So I can say I made $350,000, but I may have only collected $70K. That's a more realistic number. Okay? It doesn't make sense. None of this stuff adds up. It's that Facebook wall and that commercial where the woman's got the pictures on the wall and she's like, this isn't how this works. This isn't how any of this works. And I may be off base. I may be wrong, But from the outside, looking at this guy, bragging about his success with these guys that are just delusional fools that are just dying from delusions of grandeur, a lot of these dudes that are backing him up, guys, I don't want to name names, so I'm not going to.
Right.
But there are people that claim to be like, I'm the #1 Hispanic writer of science fiction. If you Google this guy's name, he's like the 19th guy, and there are people that are like, he's not even Hispanic. His name is Hispanic, but he's just kind of a white dude who's taking his Hispanic heritage and using it as a marketing tool. And I'm not going to – that's neither here nor there. But the fact is these guys are manipulating people for social currency.
And it's kind of working. And
it is working because people want to believe you. When I tell you that I am doing something, they want to believe it because why would I lie? Why would somebody lie that blatantly about basic shit? Because we live in a post-truth era. Reality television manipulates all these people on a regular basis.
Yeah,
that's why
that
I
is
don't
so
watch
true.
any of it. I don't watch any of that stuff because it's highly edited garbage. I watch pro wrestling, and I know it's fake. It's a soap opera for men. That's why I watch it.
Yeah, no, and I think the other aspect of this that's damaging when you have anyone, and it doesn't matter who it is, but when they game the system like this to make it appear to the outside they're more successful than they really are, it makes people who are trying to build something think, oh, I just have to do this and this and this, and I could be just as successful. And when they're not, they're like, there's something wrong with me. That's what they start thinking.
Absolutely. I don't have any aspirations to make a ton of money. I'm trying to make $8,000 on this Kickstarter so I could pay 2 colorists and pay for the cost of printing and shipping these books. This guy has made enough money. He's made a salary that could pay for 60 Walmart employees. Okay?
Right.
Now, I mean, you think about what he's done, and then when people start to call him out on the fact that he's now sending these things out for a discounted media rate, and he charged buttloads of money for shipping, it's disingenuous.
Right.
And if you can't lay these things out for people to see, and you're like, but no, look over here, look, these people are hating on me, they're trying to gatekeep me out of comics. Don't look at me while I'm doing something that's a little questionable over here. Look at this.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, doesn't it? It sounds like a smaller scale.
I know someone like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy because even if he did make the $70,000 that you estimate that he has, that's a lot of money to make on a comic. A comic like crowdfunding a comic. That's a really good amount.
I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings. Yeah. I'm about to print 2 comics of about 72 pages worth of content, and it's only going to cost me a little over $3,000 to produce those 2 books, and I'm going to get 2,000 copies of those 2 books. So, pardon me, but that's just bullshit.
Mm-hmm. And the whole lawsuit thing stinks because why are you doing this? If you're succeeding in your own words, you are succeeding. Like he probably, if this is real, he made more from this Indiegogo campaign than he would have made with Imminent Press.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
why the need? Way more. Why the need?
Because he thrives on conflict. I've talked to some people. As a journalist, I've done a little investigating. I'm not going to go into basically I kind of did some undercover stuff. I went on the Diversity in Comics Facebook page as another. You guys are the first people I'm telling about this.
Well, don't worry. We won't tell anyone else.
Surprise! This podcast just got really interesting.
It really did. Keep going, man.
It's just between us.
Basically, I talked to the guy. There was a guy that used to run the Facebook page, and I'm not going to name his name, but I was reading their feed, and they started to reject this guy, and it was obvious that it was because he was gay, and it was because he was obviously interested in who we're talking about. And so I approached the guy anonymously, and I said, I'm sorry that, you're being treated this way. It kind of sucks. Why? And he said, because I have feelings for this person. And I was like, okay. And I was like, because I was looking for access to the Dark Roast. For people who are listening, the Dark Roast was this secret podcast that he did where he claims that he was roasting comic book people, that it was all jokes. But basically he, threw a Marvel editor under a bus and said that there was a woman, somebody slept for their job with this Marvel editor. He called her a cum dumpster, which I don't even like saying. And there were a lot of things that were said, calling people pedophiles and things like this, these professionals that are above him, where he kind of took liberty. A roast is something that people volunteer to do. You volunteer to be made fun of on a stage with people. You don't roast strangers. That's not a roast. That's bullshit. That's you just being an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And they recorded it. And you can find it all over the web now. This was before it was all over the web. I had a copy of it because of this guy. And I was going to go to Rich with it and let them have it. But Rich had a copy already at Bleeding Cool. And I basically said, look, I feel really bad for you. And then he panicked and he told them that he was talking to this guy, and they removed me. They removed my alternate name from the Facebook group. And so I lost my access. But he told me enough in that time. And if people start to call me a liar, I'll just pull out the receipts, because I've got them, that I had this conversation with this guy, and I just felt badly for him. And he said that one of the things that he said was that Richard thrives on conflict and that he doesn't understand why he won't relent, and that it was a problem. And you see it constantly. He shuts off his Twitter account for a couple days. He can't walk away. He comes back. He can't just walk away. And if you call him out when he's talking shit and you go, why don't you just go make your comics and shut up? He has nothing to say. Because I've actually said literally those things in tweets where I'm like, why don't you just, F off? Nobody wants to talk to you. Why are you here? And, he goes away because he can't bully you if there's no substance.
Right.
And a lot of these guys like him and like even EVS, when I had a run-in with him on Facebook over politics, he does this thing where he comes to you in private messages and he tries to be your friend again. And this is documented across multiple people that he's done this with. He did it to me. And he said that because I was this up-and-coming guy and I had scripts that I wanted real artists to read, he said, let me read one of your scripts and see, maybe we could work on something together. And he buttered me up like the way a middle schooler would after they've gotten done bullying somebody. And I let him read one of my scripts. And that account has been deleted because I actually, before we had this conversation tonight, I was thinking I needed to have this stuff. And I went looking for his old accounts in my private messages, and it's gone. But he did. This was many years ago. This was 2 election cycles ago. And it happened. And his people started showing up that are all these names that if you go, hey, who's in this squad, they'll start naming, Michael so-and-so, this. I blocked all those people like instantly. And because they tried to kind of ride into my wall. And it's unfortunate that these people they carry themselves like this, because it ultimately led to him losing his job. He didn't choose to leave comics or DC Comics. DC Comics said, we're walking away from this, and more power to him. Make your weird Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle knockoff comic. Make your weird alt-right podcast where you're a complete sycophant and weirdo. Leave us alone. Fade off into obscurity. Let other people make comics that are going to do a professional job, and they're going to be all-inclusive, and they're not going to pick on people of color or, transgendered people or whatever, and just shut up and make comics. And that's kind of the tack that we're taking with Imminent now. After the stalker thing where I got silenced a couple weeks ago, I kind of turned to the principal people in the group, and I said, I am really sorry if I am ruining us because I am limiting our ability to market because I have the biggest Facebook audience, and that matters in the metric. And they were just like, look, we've got to walk away from this. And I said, I agree. I'm going to walk away from troll hunting because I like trolling trolls. I love it. And I said, I've got to stop doing this. That my stalker bothered us today, and I had to just block him. I was at the gym, and Troy shot me a message. He says, hey, you got to block this guy because it's your dude. I don't want to name him because I don't want him to have any kind of legality over me. Mm-hmm. But I sent a cease and desist letter through a lawyer to him this week.
Do a lot of comic book people have stalker problems?
There are people who get death threats. I have gotten death threats from randos, and you just you report the post, and that's all you can do because it's usually from an anonymous account.
But for what?
If somebody's smart enough to use a VPN, they can get away with murder.
Yeah. What are their grievances? I mean, what do they
Most
want?
of it's just that they don't like your politics. I mean, I'll be honest. I made a mistake when I first encountered the guy that I'm dealing with. I went because a friend of mine, an African American creator, basically contacted me and said, "Hey, what do you think of this article?" So I went to the Bounding Into Comics Facebook page, which is like the Fox News slanted journalism of they're basically a vehicle for Comicsgate people. And it was about there was a guy that was fired at the beginning of this year for being kind of racist and sexist in the workplace, and he was kind of a veteran guy in smaller press, but he had a history of this. But he was also a veteran. So they were trying to spin this piece to where this veteran was being abused and fired from his job because he talked like a veteran. And that's being a sexist and being a racist and being derogatory. It doesn't matter if you served in a country. I'm glad that you did, but that doesn't give you a pass to be a piece of shit, period. You know, thanks for your service. Try not to be an asshole when you're at your day job now. So that guy was fired. They basically called me in. I said, hey, you know, this is bad journalism, signed an actual journalist in the industry. And this dude just started, you know, it was the same 4 or 5 names that everybody says, soy boy, cuck, whatever, all these weird terms that these guys have created that they don't even know what they mean contextually.
Beta male.
Beta male. Oh, did your girlfriend's boyfriend give you permission? Yeah, that's like nerd douchebag playbook number 689. They all say it. It's like none of them have an original thought. So I just kind of said, I like to know who I'm talking to, so I Googled this guy. And the first thing that pops up is a mugshot. And it's a mugshot for ag assault with a deadly weapon in another state. So I just screen grabbed it, put it right in the thread, and I said, this is who I'm talking to. We don't have to have a conversation. You make stupid choices. And I shut him down, and he got angry. How dare you do this? How dare you post that? Those charges are going to be dropped. Okay, that's on the internet right now. The internet says it's true, so I'm putting it up there. And and he goes, "You doxed me." And I now where I made a mistake, and I doubt he'll even listen to this, but I'm going to give him his one little kernel of what he wants from me. I should have paid attention to the mugshot. It has his address on it, and I feel bad about that. But nobody gave a shit about that in that thread. Nobody did. They saw that and they moved on because it wasn't about them. The narcissism of Facebook and not being about them, they moved on. It was just 2 dudes fighting on a stupid thread, fighting over their dumb medal in the Special Olympics kind of thing. It was a worthless argument. And so he started showing up as false accounts, started messaging my ex-girlfriend from 4 years ago trying to find my address. He eventually found my address through my web URLs that I have on GoDaddy because I didn't pay the $8 to keep them private. And he marked me on Google Maps and called my house Steve's Insel House of Comics, which I caught only because I had to GPS home from somewhere, and I fixed it. And that was cute. And then he showed up a couple months later, and I blocked him and stuff and got in an argument with him. And I basically said, hey, man, why don't I contact your wife so we can get another adult in the room? And maybe she'll get you to leave me alone, because it's kind of sad that this dude who's got like 4 kids is like spending all of his time harassing me, harassing people connected to me. And he was like, oh, you're trying to extort my family. I said, no, I literally just said, I want to ask your wife to ask you to man up and be an adult. And it led to nothing. So he, continued. And he goes away, he comes back. And now he came back a couple weeks ago, now he's back again. So he's getting a cease and desist. And it never amounted to anything other than this guy cannot let go. And that's just the baseline for most of these dudes that are connected to Myers Movement, is that a lot of these guys can't let go. They're hobbyists that can't break in because their work isn't high enough quality, or they don't have the wherewithal to produce something that's finished. They're guys that read comics that go, I could do this better than these guys that are trained to do it or have learned how to do it. It's just a bunch of people who can't do what they want. So their entitlement takes over, and they're angry. And so they call it this consumer revolt. They're just not buying comics. They're literally cutting their noses off to spite their own face. And that's what it boils down to.
All right, then.
Sorry. That was a hell of a rant.
Yeah, no, but it's necessary considering I'm hearing about this. I don't really go on Screen Rant or Comixology or, where all these other sites, I'm hearing about it. It's in the Washington Post, Huffington Post. It's on New York Times. I mean, so this is getting. He was
on Comedy Central during Comic-Con. He went on that show. What's the Jim Jones, right? Jim Jeffries. Yeah. That's the cultist guy. Jim Jeffries, and he made an ass out of him because they played the dark roast and said, "Wait a minute, you said all these horrible things about people you don't even know, and you're trying to say that you're the one that's being wronged here." And he had nothing to say, that he felt strongly about it, and that he's hurt that he can't get published. Richard Meyer ruined Richard Meyer. Nobody else did.
I do wonder if this whole thing is just efforts for another Indiegogo to help fund his lawsuit.
Oh, well, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I know that Mark Waid has a seriously high-powered attorney that everybody thought was a joke until you Google the guy and you're like, holy crap, he's got like a big gun coming to protect him. And Mark, as somebody who has benefited from knowing Mark Waid, ever since I got started, he's always been helpful and genuine, and he's a very kind person who sees people, the art, creatives, and he offers to help them. Guys like him, guys like Ron Mars have been invaluable to me learning to make comics. And I was very lucky that I had the platform like Newsarama to be able to interact with people, to learn how to be a professional and learn how to not run my mouth like a moron, because there were times where I screwed up all the time. There were times where we almost lost the ability to cover things because I got creative. I wrote a review about Planet Hulk that literally almost cost us the ability to talk about Planet Hulk as a website. And I had to apologize to people because I got hyperbolic and creative, and I didn't care about the fact that these people have to feed their families and make money. And I was negative in a way that was at the expense of these people. And I was wrong to do that. So when you take these liberties as an outlier like Myers does, you have no right to do that. Who the hell do you think you are? You have no established credibility that says you should be even reviewing books, other than you have this audience of other dudes just like you that are just as butthurt. So it just defies reason when to act that so unprofessionally that you can't even breathe around these people. And they just believe, they keep drinking their own Kool-Aid thinking that they're righteous in this movement. It's sad.
You know what all these guys need? They need butt-length yellow capes.
Oh, jeez.
Batman's dick solves everything.
Yes.
That's just...
All right, so we're actually well over an hour at this point.
All right.
So, again, I'm going to ask you so we'll know where to go. Where can they find the Kickstarter?
They're going to be able to find it after noon tomorrow at imminent.press or imminent-presents.com. And it's going to basically take you to the Kickstarter page, or you can go to Kickstarter. I'm hoping that, we look polished enough that we'll make their benchmarks to get the little check marks and all the little bells and whistles for getting a good-looking project. And we'll be hopefully on the front page of the comics portion within no time. We got to raise $8,000, so I'm going to be shystering and huckstering away, hoping to get people to check us out. But luckily this time we'll be able to sell 4 books instead of 2 to people who missed it the first time. And we have great extras like prints. We've got 2 really cool shirts. One of them says "Making Comics Dangerous Again" with our logo. The other one is more of a high-end reward for the bigger backers, and it's going to have our logo, and it's going to say #expect us, because I listen to an inordinate amount of Tupac.
And just to be sure, because I might be stupid. If they want to pick up the first 2, do they have to go to the Kickstarter for 3 and 4 and pick them all up together, or can they get those individually somewhere else?
There are going to be limited shops around the United States, but they're going to be localized to where the creators are. Like there's the shop near me, Famous Faces and Funnies, is going to be selling the books in Melbourne. I know that there's going to be a shop near Troy. There's going to be a shop near Eric. All of us have shops near us that we're going to have basically sponsor our books. Like we're just giving copies to these people as retailer incentives, because we want retailers to support us. So the first 2 issues, we've done some outreach, and we've given copies to certain retailers that we trust because we buy our books there. And we're trying to sell our stuff, not even by consignment. We're literally donating books to shops so they can turn a profit because we care about their retailer. This time around, we will have retailer boxes where retailers can back us. For $150, I think they get 10 copies of each book, and they get a couple of shirts, and they get some prints for each number 1, plus some stickers. Or if they spend $200, if they're local to us, we will, one of us or 2 of us or 3 of us, depending on who's there or capable, will go to these stores and do signings on our own dime. So we're all about retailer support, but right now the main way to get these is going to have to be through Kickstarter. But we have these kind of packages where it's like, in case you missed it, you can get 1, 2, 3, and 4 for $25.
Oh,
and
okay.
It comes with prints. It comes with stickers. We're going to have a lot of stuff to give away. When we hit our $8,000 benchmark, everybody will also get a digital copy of Always Punch Nazis from Ben Ferrari. He's been willing to donate that for us. So when we hit our goal, everybody gets a free digital graphic novel, plus all the stuff we're giving away, which will probably have close to 300 to 500 pages of free digital content for every backer, no matter what they bid.
Cool. And also, just so people know, where can they find you online?
Well, they can find me mainly on Facebook. Like right now, I'm about to hit my cap. I literally have like 8 spaces left on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, which I have only like 800 followers on Twitter. So if people want to follow me on Twitter, I'd be honored. But I just don't I'm not going to pay for like 20,000 followers so people will follow me thinking that I have things important to say, political or about comics or whatever. I don't really tweet about going to the bathroom or getting my hair cut. I'm also on Instagram. Most of my handles are all the same. It's like Steve_Ekstrom or Steve.Ekstrom. My last name sounds like excrement and scrotumant kind of mixed together, so you can easily find me. I don't really care. But yeah, mainly Facebook. Come to the Imminent Press page. It's basically facebook.com/we are imminent. And then we also have the Terminal page, which is facebook.com/terminalogn.
That's great. So I'm going to ask you our normal sign-off question, but before I do, I have 2 quick announcements for our listeners, so please bear with me. Number 1, for those who are aware, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we actually have a T-shirt for that, where the proceeds are going to the National Breast Cancer. It's available in our Teespring store, and all through the month of October. The link will be in the description of the episode. If you buy it, you'll get 25%. So, and all the proceeds national. So, we'll buy the shirt and help a worthy cause. The other announcement, John and I are going to be busy this weekend. John, where are we going again?
To the movies? No, wait, I'm wrong. Therapy. That's right. It's our therapy week.
No.
New
That's
York,
November.
New York, right? New York.
Yes. We will be at New York Comic Con this week. We'll be there all 4 days. We are actually going to be extremely busy. Sorry, John. We have a lot of things on our calendar. But for those who aren't signed up to our Patreon, that's patreon.com/superheroespeak. You should check it out. It just for $1 a month. All of our interviews that we get from the con will be posted the night we record them. Because we are notoriously bad at getting things out on time, John. And, so, they will go out eventually in the regular show. We're not going to keep our regular listeners in suspense. But, again, if you sign up at our Patreon just for $1 a month, and we have a lot of great interviews lined up. I'm not going to tell you everyone, but just to name a few comic book creators, we've got Scott Hanna, Joyce, and Eric Larson all lined up. Plus, we will be talking somebody who is show, but most people know Leave from a little-known show called Breaking Bad. And I will just leave it at that. But if you would like to hear what he has to say, you might want to check out our page. So that's all I had to announce. Thank you for letting me do that, Steve.
Thank you for having us, man. I'm always really appreciative that you guys are willing to let us promote our projects. I think you guys are a lot of fun to talk to, And it's always nice to be taken seriously about what, your craft.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I'm going to ask you, I know I've asked you this question before, but I'm going to ask it again because the answer may have changed. And of course, that question is, how do you measure?
Okay, well, it has changed. I did my first show where I was on the actual professional side of the table selling books at MegaCon Tampa. And I got to do my first panel at this show also. So it was kind of this breakthrough moment for me, because I've always been a journalist on the ground, interviewing other people. I've been showing people samples, but I've never, I've only been digitally published. Mm-hmm. But this time I had physical books. I was, making people happy. I'm telling people stories. I'm being taken seriously as a professional in this industry, and I'm being looked at as something, as a source of information. And the personal satisfaction was almost overwhelming. I was floating around on a cloud that entire weekend. And it was, when you look at how long you spend on the outside trying to get in, and you're working hard, and you're trying to make things, and you're trying to learn how to do this, and you're being told no over and over and over. When you start to be told yes, when you have professionals coming up to you, the coolest thing that has happened to me in recent memory, Gerhard from Cerebus was at the show. And I got to sit next to him on the panel. So this is a guy who's been making comics for nearly 40 years successfully. He's made one of the most successful indie books prior to the big Image boom, when it was impossible to make indie comics successfully. Come up to me and say that he was impressed with me. When his wife came over, they were like, my husband was really impressed with you and really enjoyed talking to you and sitting next to you on this panel. How do you react to that? Other than you just kind of I was speechless. I was dumbfounded. So that is definitely a measure of success. I mean, I'm still not getting work where I'm getting paid a lot of money. I'm still not doing, I'm not getting, I'm not on Spider-Man. I'm not killing the X-Men yet, but it gives you hope that you're going to get there. And it kind of leads you. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from Mike Carey when I first did my first interview with a pro for Newsarama. He said, it's not about point A to point B. It's about all the little steps you take in between point A and point B that lead to your success that matter. And he was absolutely right. So I feel like I'm doing the right thing and I'm on the right course by being my own publisher, being the editor, being a writer, being a letterer, learning how to do all the aspects of making comic books and being a student of the sport.
Cool. And just to clarify, it was this year?
MegaCon Tampa, which was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks, yes. Cool. And I also can't believe anyone.
Yeah, I'm full of hot air, aren't I? I'm a talkative guy.
Cool. Oh, and just to clarify for everyone listening, because we are recording night, and you do keep saying tomorrow by noon, which is Tuesday the 2nd. So if you're listening to this after Tuesday the 2nd, which you most likely Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, yes, the Kickstarter is now live, and you should be able to go and contribute. All right. I think that's a good place to put it in. Pin in it this week. Boys and girls. Wow. So as always, thanks for listening, and don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.